We're really excited to have some of our Appetite for Excellence judges and some of Australia's leading maitre d's and restaurateurs, front of house professionals with us today, and joining us for a panel session to talk about the culture of front of house and how I think in Australia we can really build it into a career that people can be excited to get into and aspire to. So please join me in welcoming up to the front to join us this morning Danielle Jesslin from Wasabi Restaurant in Noosa. Kylie Javier Ashton from Momofuku Siebo in Sydney. Kylie's got some of her team here as well, who were some of our Appetite for Excellence finalists last night. Lisa Van Handel from Longrain Melbourne, Long Song and the Beach Hotel in Byron. And Marilyn Anagini from the Pilu Group in Sydney. Welcome, everybody. Thank you. So it's exciting that within the audience here we've got some young people that have chosen hospitality as a career, which I think is fantastic because, you know, you often hear the story that kind of people fell into it and, you know, they didn't really kind of mean to get into it and they did it while they were studying and then all of a sudden they were still working in a restaurant and then it just became their job. So it's great to have you all here and knowing that that's what you're focusing on. But I thought, Kylie, I might start with you and ask you why are waiters and front of house managers so important to the team and why do we need to really reinforce that in a bigger way?
Okay, so I'm the GM of Momofuku Siebo Restaurant and I think that the waiters and front of house and managers are incredibly important. The chefs, as you heard, have this incredible vision, but we're the people that bring it to life and you need front of house people to create that experience. What I love most about my job is taking care of people, whether or not that be our guests, our staff. We've got an amazing environment to work in that I love. The people that I work with have become my family. But just, you know, the smiles on the guests' faces, you're part of their most intimate, special moments. For me, I chose specifically to go into management. I think that, you know, we were having a conversation yesterday. There's a lot of people who are front of house that tend to go into being sommeliers, and that's really important too, because I think that there are direct sort of career paths. And you can study and there's certain goals that you can hit. It's a little bit harder for that on front of house, but I think that what we do is so important. We're the people who tell the stories. I studied performing arts when I left school because I love to entertain people, but I kind of found that industry really wasn't for me, and I found like what I was looking for when I started working in restaurants because I was able to create an experience for people and take them away to somewhere that they'd never been, and they were sitting in the same chair as they did, you know, when they came in, but what I was able to give them and the experience that we're able to create for our guests is something that I think is really, really special, and chefs need us. So often, most of my friends are chefs and they're always asking me for really good front of house people. We need chefs to get behind front of house people. We need the chefs to push and celebrate and recognise your front of house people. If you want your dishes to come to life, if you want that experience to translate right from your kitchen to the guests, you need us. So we need to work better as an industry. The pay is great. The lifestyle's great, and the community is great. So that's what I love about my job.
Yeah, absolutely. And also we're the conduit to the customer as well. So although there's a lot of open kitchens nowadays, we're the people, you know, at the forefront of telling the story of what's on the plate. So it's just as important, you know, to have that really strong role in place as well. Being a talented front of house person is a really complex skill. It's not as simple as just carrying plates. So Danielle, what do you think is the best way for these young industry professionals to sort of hone their skills? Study's one part of it, but what would your advice be in how they also could progress in other ways?
So I think study is a really big part of it. I think that we sometimes lose track of that a little bit in the front of house, particularly industry, because as Kylie mentioned, you know, there's not a lot of really direct paths in terms of like goal kicking and boxes to check in terms of qualifications. But I think that if you invest time and energy into your education, as you would, I mean, you studied at university before you went into hospitality?
No, I didn't actually.
Oh, so you didn't? You studied performing arts?
Yeah, I studied performing arts in tertiary, but not uni.
Right, okay. So I think there's a lot of people that are in hospitality. I know I employ a lot of people that are in hospitality. You mentioned earlier, you start off, you go to uni, and for whatever reason, hospitality becomes your calling. You've already invested a lot of time and energy and research into doing something else. And then you choose this as your career. And that's not the time to stop learning. That's the time to keep going, push on, and invest time and money in yourself as well. It's not just about, you know, learning about wine or doing a management course. It's about being, you know, having a broad set of skills. So in what I do, we have, the restaurant has a farm as well. That's a really big part of my week. I do the harvest twice a week. So yes, I'm a restaurateur. Yes, I manage the restaurant. And yes, the buck stops with me in a lot of ways. But that's just not this limited scope of what I do on a daily basis. You know, my week is really varied, and I think it's really important for us as an industry to look at ways which we can encourage young people and for them to understand that it's not this narrow tunnel of a job. It's actually an industry, unlike many, where it can be extraordinarily varied, and there's so many aspects to the industry, whether it's in the kitchen or whether it's front of house or whether it's a career in wine, where you can get out of the restaurant and you can do different things that build your skills and build your knowledge and improve your career prospects as well, that don't just involve, you know, standing behind a bench or a coffee machine or, you know, taking an order. And I think that that's really important to have an understanding of the scope of where the career can take you.
And a lot of that's about mentoring and finding maybe a role model for you. So
100%.
Lisa, you're everyone's a huge advocate for front of house and mentoring, but I know that you've really invested a lot of your time within your businesses in that role. Do you have any advice for the young people here listening to this about how they go about finding a good mentor and what they should be, you know, how do they find a mentor? Like, it's not as easy as just, you know, picking up the phone and asking someone. What would your advice be on?
No. I think get yourself out there, eat out a lot, identify someone that you really admire in your field, and then people in our hospitality industry are very open and very willing to share ideas. I mean, you just get, when the four of us got together last night, it was just like blah, 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 about ideas and how to do things. So identify someone that you would really like to perhaps learn what they have to say to you, and they will be very generous with you. I think finding a mentor also, when you go, it's pretty much an employee's market at the moment, so you can choose where you want to go and work, and if you're good at what you do, you will get a job where you want to be. So you can, if you have a particular style that you like, or you have someone who is a great leader, or things that you'd like to learn, you can actually go and work there. But once you're there, give them at least 2 years minimum. Because if you job hop around, you don't learn a lot. You think that you might be learning a lot, getting around and learning all these things. You're actually not. You're not actually doing... You might think you are, but you're not actually getting into the culture of the place. And so the person that you've identified that you want to go and work with, you might get a fifth of what they can teach you. Whereas you actually find out what you're good at, find out what you're not good at, nurture that, and then get that person to actually teach you and take you under their wing. Make them do it. Make them go, say them, I'm really hungry, I want to learn. What is that? What's this? And they'll suddenly shake out of their reverie and sort of go, oh my God, this is actually someone who's really interested, and they will take you on. And that's so important. And ask lots of questions, you know, eat out a lot, see all those different things, but find someone that you really admire their style, and they should, if they're a good leader, will take you under their wing. And that is a career path for you, because if you identify yourself as that, they will actually bring you up, bring you on, put you in charge of training people, and you can learn all of their skills as well. So be a sponge and be forward about it and make yourself noticed as someone who wants to learn.
Yeah, that's really, really good advice. And also, as Guy mentioned earlier when he was talking, it's mentors learn as much from the person that they're working with. I think it's a two-way street, you know? Everyone's always learning, so there's that constant communication, and mentors have got just as much to learn. So it's a really balanced equation. It's a positive outcome for everyone.
Like doing this, the competition.
Yeah, well, I was just going to mention that. So, Marilyn, you've been an Appetite for Excellence Young Restaurateur Judge for a number of years now, so you've seen a lot of very talented restaurateurs come through. And I think a lot of front of house, chefs as well, but front of house people kind of go, okay, this is the industry for me, I love it. I know what, I'll open a restaurant. What advice would you give to anyone who has a dream of opening and operating their own restaurant? It's not all starry-eyed.
No. I've been working with young restaurateurs for many years now, and I have to say, like, the talent just keeps getting better and better. So these young people are really passionate. They're really driven. So obviously that's the first step. It's not easy opening your own restaurant, and unfortunately in our industry it's getting a little bit harder. Industrial relations laws are changing and becoming stricter. It's harder to get money. Cost of goods is increasing. Cost of staff increases. But I guess it's not to be disillusioned. When we talk about finding a mentor, look at someone that you aspire to who is a restaurateur, who's a successful restaurateur. Network with like-minded people. I still network, even more so today than I ever did, with like-minded people. Make sure, the nitty-gritty is you need to have money, basically. You need to have some financial backing, because too many people go into this with the idea of maybe they've been a waiter or they've been a restaurant manager or they've been a chef. And they go, well, that looks pretty easy. I can do that. And then I've had people come to me afterwards and go, oh, my God, I've got to pay workers' comp and I've got to pay insurance and I've got to pay leases and rents. And I didn't understand that in my rent I have to pay outgoings and all these kind of things. So I think try and be really informed, ask the right questions from as many people. Unfortunately, get some money behind you, get some financial backing. A sound business plan is really important, and a business plan that you can review often, every 6 months or so. Go back and go, okay, have I achieved that target? Maybe it was too high and it's unrealistic, so let's review it and go, okay, this is more realistic now that I know that I have to pay X amount in wages, and my food cost is actually, it's 25%. It's not 20% like I was expecting it to be. Continue to review that. The biggest thing for us now is networking. You've all met amazing people. Use us, use the chefs, use other restaurateurs as sounding boards. If I had that opportunity when I opened a restaurant, it would have been amazing. Back in my day, you didn't really talk to other restaurateurs. It was a competition, wasn't it? Like, you kind of kept it to yourself. But I was just saying to Sasha earlier, these days we're willing to give as much information as we can. Like, I love this industry and I want it to grow, and so if I can use my knowledge now and give it back, then
we understand that we're stronger together.
Yeah.
Much stronger together.
Yeah. And so, Danielle, I was going to ask you, you entered Young Restaurateur. You were our first Young Restaurateur winner. And just as Jo was sort of talking about how she's involved in competition and so forth, what did it help you how did it expand your understanding of the industry? What did it deliver to you being involved in that?
It really opened a lot of doors for me. I'm, for those of you who don't know where I am, so my restaurant is in Noosa, which is regional Queensland, and I have to say being in regional Queensland is different from being in regional Victoria or regional New South Wales. It's a lot more isolated. And for me, going through the program wasn't just about the networking, which was fantastic, but it was really eye-opening in the sense of the community that already existed, that was out there, and it made me personally feel far less isolated. And even though after that I still got on a plane and I went home and I just went back to my, day-to-day, I felt like I was part of a much bigger collective. And that was the thing that really made a huge difference to my life. It didn't change the way I got out of bed in the morning, but it made me feel different. And I think that that's really, really, really important in this industry, to feel, that there's this network of people out there that are just like you, that are driven by the same things, who are just as passionate and share the same goals. and really are there to help you achieve those goals. Like, reach out, ask for help. If you need advice, seek it. You know, I'm not a mind reader. I'd love to be. But if somebody approaches me and says, hey, look, I'm struggling with something, I am more than happy to sit down and go through things with them. And if I can help, I will. If I know somebody who can help better, I will recommend them on. And that feeling of belonging was the thing that I really got the most out of.
And it is really important. Our industry can be isolating, so it is important to find those networks, find your tribe, you know, as they say, and there's lots of organisations out there that you can do that through, and, you know, seeking out the one that can support you at the point of career you're in is really important. As Dan referenced, there is quite a lot of negative press about our industry at the moment, which I find really sad because there's so much positive about it that doesn't get into the media headlines. I'm going to ask each of you to just maybe say a couple of the things that you really love the most about working in the industry in front of house, and what really gets you out of bed in the morning and makes you excited about our industry. So I might start with you. I'm going to put you on the spot there.
So what gets me out of bed in the morning is my team and the customer interface that allows me to have. So I have a team of front of house who, some of them are a lot more experienced than I am, and some are really, really green. And I love the energy that they bring, and I'm able to learn from them. And then as Kylie mentioned that, we're able to tell the story, and we are the link. Like, we are what creates the link between the customer and our restaurant. And so we're the ones that keep people coming back as well. Unless we have that human connection, it's just food on a plate. And people don't remember just the food on the plate. They remember the human connection. And that's what gets people coming back. And that's that's our challenge and what I love.
That's great. Lisa?
What I really enjoy about our industry is that you have to really think about it. People have to eat. And really, they're always going to have to eat. But the other thing is that that we're in the business of giving people a good time. Like, it's actually a joyful thing to do, to look after people. And it's not like working in a store where people walk in and they might walk out without buying anything. They're coming to you to have an experience. And the importance of front of house, and I'll keep plugging front of house, is because if you go to a restaurant, you can have the most beautiful food in the world, but if you get really bad service, or that, Marilyn says, that connection isn't there, that human thing, that making people feel comfortable and they've actually had a great time even though they can't put their finger on why, that's the most important thing. But if you can have the most beautiful food, but if you don't get that human connection, they won't come back. But if you go to a place where they've made warm, they're welcomed, and there's a big smile, and there's efficient, but there's that lovely joy and comfort and nurturing and hospitality, then they will come back again and again and again, even if the food's not fantastic, because they've had a really good time. So one of the things I love about our business is identifying young people who have that element about them, that thing that you can't teach them, which is the hospitality. And it's a really exciting thing, and I just love seeing people's faces, and I love seeing them want to learn, and they find it in themselves. They find something they're really good at, which is looking after people. So it's a really, really fabulous thing. I really enjoy that about our industry. So it will never not be exciting for me.
Thank you, Lisa. Kylie?
I love our industry and my job because it challenges me and makes me a better person every day. I really loved what Dan said about when you're perceived as successful, that people kind of think that it's easy. It's not. Like, it gets harder, and just for me to rise to that challenge every single day, there's so many things to learn, and you never stop learning, and that's what I really love about my job. I have the ability to change my own world and the world of other people every single day, even if it's just from a simple meal. Food is the language of every person, as Lisa said. Everyone has to eat, and I love food so much, but I also love people. So if I can change one person's world through a meal or through a conversation, that makes my work have meaning and purpose, and it makes me happy.
Yeah. So what I love about our industry is the variation. So my week is extremely varied, and I love my job because of it. I couldn't do a job where I sat behind a desk from 9 to 5. It's not for me, and I think probably it's not for any of you either. As I said before, my week involves at least 2 harvests. So on Wednesdays, I'm at the farm all day, so I'm outdoors. I still do service on Wednesday night, and while that seems like a long day, it doesn't feel like a long day to me. So essentially, I do all these different things during the day, and then I get this added bonus at the end of the night of being able to go into a beautiful dining room with beautiful guests who, because we're in a resort town, are mostly on holidays, they're in a great mood. You know, I get to look at somebody in the eyes who's there to enjoy themselves or to celebrate a special moment, and help facilitate that. And then hopefully, if we do an okay job, we make them happy and we get to experience that warmth that they give back to us. And there's very few industries that you can do that. There's very few industries that you can say, hey, I just get to make people happy every day. And I think that that's extremely unique. And I'll use an example. It's a little bit to what Dan was saying earlier. There are lots of jobs that are hard, and this isn't easy, but as an example, my mother is a palliative care nurse. So this is going to sound a bit negative, but it puts things in perspective for me often. She goes to work every day and looks at people in the eyes who know they are dying. I could never do that job. She has a calling to it. She does it beautifully, with grace and elegance. But I feel lucky that I get to go to work to put things in perspective and look at people in the eyes who are just there to have a great time. And I think that we should all take our education seriously. We should take our industry seriously. We should work really hard at what we do to achieve the best that we can achieve. But let's not take ourselves too seriously. At the end of the day, I feel lucky that I work in this role and in this industry. And I feel blessed that that's like what I get to do. It's amazing. We should be high-fiving each other.
4 pieces of really fantastic advice and summing up how amazing our industry is. And as people say, if you absolutely love what you do, you don't actually feel like you're working. So I think that's the best part of it, you know. You've also got a little bit of food on your table. So does anyone have any questions before I thank everybody that's up here? Does anybody want to ask anyone a question, or no? Just want to enjoy this beautiful food that's in front of you. So could I ask you all to please say a huge thank you to Marilyn, Lisa, Kylie and Danielle. Thank you for joining us. As Luke mentioned earlier, our Appetite for Excellence judges are amazing because they take their time to do this for the program and for the industry. And I think, you know, moving forward in your careers, please also keep in mind that you're part of a broader industry, so it's not just about your role in your restaurant day to day. It's actually about, you know, the whole Australian industry driving forward, and that will be driven by you. So what you put into the industry, you will get back out of it. So I hope you've enjoyed today's Inspired series, and thank you for joining us. Enjoy the food, and thank you to our panel.